So sewing your Petersham, oh sorry, what am I talking about Petersham for? Sewing your Baker Boy pieces together, you start by just making sure that you've got your centimetre seam allowance, because that's what you've measured. I've got it pinned together at the bottom and the top, and I've got my edges sitting together. Now they're sitting quite neatly together. If I had any problem with that, I would just add extra pins. Now when I get up here for this one, you've got the option of just stopping when you get to that point where you come to the 1 centimetre distance from the other side, and then just do a little reverse and out you come. Now when you've done that, there are other seams. You could do that top stitch seam as you've done with the side of your beret if you were looking at that video. I'm actually not going to do that. I'm just going to keep on going, and I'm going to put this face to face here, and it's really important that you get those two corners in exactly the right place, and then the tips also matching. So if you got those two in position, and the tip is, if you've cut accurately, the tips should sit together really nicely, and if they don't, just make them do so, and that'll make your life much simpler. So a pin at the top and a pin at the bottom. Oh, wrong side. So we're starting at the bottom and going to the top, and when you get to the top, this suits me well. I can actually stop where I see this seam meeting. So put those together. Put those, get them so that the edges sit nicely together. And I think I've mentioned to you in the other video when we were doing the toile that you really need to get that centimetre seam allowance quite accurate, because any deviation from that centimetre, do a little back tack there, any deviation from that centimetre seam allowance can get out of hand very quickly when you've got 8 seams. So it's a good idea to make sure that that's accurate. Now when you get to the top here, you can just go to where those two meet and turn that by hand, and now I'm just going to backtrack a little bit there and cut the thread, and then the next piece goes on here and so forth. Now you just keep on going with all of those until you've got 8. Now I don't think you really need to watch every single one go together, so I'm going to put that aside and complete that in private. You do exactly the same with the lining, and you get your pumpkin together for your lining. And what I'd like to show you now is the peak. Now I did mention to you that you do not need the interlining for the peak, but for this one I have, and it's thin enough that it's not a bother. So I'm just going to run this through and get that done. So we start off with our centimetre, do a little backtrack at the top. It's exactly the same as the toile. You're doing that centimetre seam. We've got our 2 front notches there. Make sure those sides are together. Now for this one, a little backtrack there. Perfect. And this seam here, what we're going to do is we're just going to do that top stitch as you did with your toile. I think I've seen everybody do this one. So backtrack and then just go through there. So what we're going to do then is we're going to cut away the excess fabric there underneath, clip that seam. Just do a little bit at a time and just really make sure that you've got those two layers pulled right out and you're not getting any gathers in there. And a little backtrack there, and that just prevents it from coming away. Now the next thing you need to do is just grab your scissors and grab your scissors off the floor, Serena, and just clip that seam. So you're taking off basically about half the fabric. Now when I cut my peak piece, I put a tiny little centre front mark at the back of the peak. Now I think I might have stored up a little bit of pain and suffering here, but we'll soon find out. So we're just going to turn this around. Now, it's not unknown to humanity. Where's my plastic? See that little notch there for the centre front of the peak? So that's giving me some information about where that should sit inside here. And what I was going to sneakily tell you just now is that, it's going in quite nicely. So that bit where the seam comes on that side, that will be the bottom. And we're just going to make sure that those little centre front marks line up. And we're just going to push that right in there, because really, according to our little recipe, we've got 1 centimetre here to work with. So there should be a centimetre behind there if everything's gone according to plan. So we're just going to smooth that out and put as many pins into there as you need to have that sitting nice and snugly inside the little pocket that you've made. Okay, so a little bit more on the same side. It's coming together quite well. I was a bit worried there for a minute. I thought I might have made a little disaster, but not really. When you've got enough pins to hold that in place inside that pocket, then the next thing that you do is that you run a little stitch line there. And I think I have pinched away a little bit that shouldn't be there, but let's go for it. And let's get rid of any excess threads before we go. And we're going to start on this side. Drop the foot down and just have that sitting nice and firm on there and just chug around that centimetre line. Now I think I might have gone a little bit off there, but that's going to be okay. We're just going to compensate for that in the assembly. So you can feel where the plastic is. And you just want to go along just inside that, or just outside that plastic line. And when you get to the end, just do a little bit of backtracking. That's good. And have that sitting there ready to go, and that's looking okay. And where I've got that just a little bit short, I'm just going to make sure that that sits nicely on the thing. And if you need to now, you could give that a little press. Put that aside. Now, next time I see you, I'm going to show you how to put the band in the pumpkin, which is something you've already done with your toile in any case.